Welcome back to Grim Rolls. Grimheads, we did it. We are finally making a grimdark video. Considering that this is the 4th video in, and the channel's namesake is all about grimdark, I would say 25% of the videos being grimdark is not a bad split. What is this grimdark that we're talking about? Well, Grimheads, I'm starting a cult. Thank you. And I figure, what better place to learn about starting a cult than the cultiest of all miniature war games, or maybe any media ever, Warhammer. Specifically, the new-ish Kill Team box, Blood and Zeal. Honestly, some of the best minis that Games Workshop, I think, has put out in a long time. Inside the box, you get the Sanctifiers Kill Team and the Goremongers Kill Team, as well as the Shrine Statue. Right now, I'm just going to be focusing on the Sanctifiers. I think, like most people, those are the models I care a lot about. The Goremongers look cool compared to the Sanctifiers. It's not really even close there, buddy. Any good cult needs to have cohesive, wonderful, clean-looking members. So, let's start with our first couple recruits. My favorite minis, I think, in the whole package. The Sanctifier Miracultist and the Sanctifier Missionary. So, let's get our new cultists based up, primed up, and get ready to cook up the newest coat. Starting out with the Miracultist, I have these new AK paints. I was really excited to try out the AK Gen 3. I just bought a little sampler pack of colors that were pretty interesting to me. And I want these cultists to kind of have a almost near Slanesh vibe. I've been painting up a lot of Emperor's Children, so that's kind of on the top of my mind. They're still with the Emperor, don't worry, but they're just kind of on the borderline with the gaudy colors. This ruby red from AK is a really kind of nice pink red, I guess ruby color is what you'd call it. These paints do go on super thin, so I did have to apply 2 coats. If you do get this paint, it's definitely a 2-coater for sure. One of the things I'm trying to do is avoid highlighting up into just lighter pinks, or, well, in this case, a lighter pink that just gets lighter and lighter. I thought it'd be cool to try highlighting up into almost like a peach tan flesh tone, which I think actually turned out pretty sweet. It kind of helped define the silhouette underneath the cape or cloak, whatever you want to call this, and stood out away from the pink but still red as highlights, which I thought turned out pretty cool. Capes and cloaks are some of my favorite things to paint, just specifically because it gives you some really nice, almost like paint by numbers. There's folds and things that are really easy to pick out when you're highlighting. So what I did was kind of start with a nice mixture of this pink with the volcanic yellow and the decayed, I think flesh is what it's called. And I just slowly highlight up from there. You can see here, I'm not highlighting back down all the way down or covering completely that initial peach tone. I just add a little white here and there and slowly bring in my area that I add the lighter colors to. You can see that kind of helps give some nice definition. I did overpaint a little bit, so any area that I'm going to cover with contrast paints, I made sure to go back over with some white. A little cleanup. Next up, I wanted to just jump right into the skin tones, so I start with a base of Catachan flesh and just a generic bright red, and mix them together to get kind of a nice brown, reddish, warm color as my base tone here. What's nice about this is we're gonna actually cover this lady, I should say, up with this dark reddish brown color and build up flesh tones from there, trying to keep all the creases and crevices with that deep red. That's going to kind of give us the illusion of where pockets or pools of your blood under the skin would be pooling up more, to kind of give you that almost blushed, or where blood would be pumping through. So that's why I'm starting out with almost this kind of dookie-ish, dark reddish brown, a rough night out. Dookie Brown. Well, so you can see here I start with my first kind of flesh tone. I might have jumped values a little early, but you can see here I'm not going for a full coverage of the arm. I'm going to cover most of it, but I'm going to keep those deeper pockets and recesses, make sure that that still has some of that reddish brown flowing through, but I'm going to cover majority, make sure at least the top facing areas where most of the light would hit and where you'd be more stretched out, less pooling of blood underneath the skin would happen. If you've never painted flesh tones before, this is a really fun way to get some really interesting results really quick, especially on like a smaller character like this. You can see I'm not being super specific or worrying about where I'm going. I used to hate doing flesh tones, but once I started, it takes a little time, I won't lie to you, but once I started doing it this way, honestly, capes and flesh tones are some of my favorite kind of things to paint up. You can see here I'm just slowly going through the same process, covering less and less area, getting smaller and smaller with lighter flesh kind of colors. Almost going to work my way up to white. If I'm feeling really lazy, I'd do maybe 3 kind of tones up. I do like 6 here. You can see here I'm just picking out a lot of the little details, trying to, again, keep the darker colors in the recesses, but just picking out slowly more and more, making sure I'm just hitting the most raised area. So you can see here I'm just rushing through, once again, layer by layer, going slightly brighter, and brighter. And honestly, if she looks a little diseased, that's kind of the point of this character. Next up, we're going to do some Reichland Flesh Shade, which is honestly a cheat code. So I usually go super pale with my characters, but knowing that I'm going to go back over with this kind of reddish brown wash, and I go really thin on it, you can kind of see I'm just kind of tapping it over, and that kind of helps bring back out some of the reds that might have accidentally covered up or fat brushed a little bit. You'll notice the hood isn't painted either. I promise I'm going to go back and paint that up. I thought that was hair for some reason, but it's definitely just the hood of the cloak. If you're looking for an easy cheat code to paint kind of worn paper or ribbon or anything that you kind of want to have that old yellowy weathered look, Skeleton Horde, the Citadel contrast paint, just a cheat code. I just kind of glob a bunch on, let it pool where it's going to pool, and it always has this kind of gross old yellowed paper look that's just every time perfect. When I bought these AK paints, I wanted to try some other color metallics. I noticed I had some really vibrant, cool metallics. I really only mess with bronze, gold, and silver. So for this one, I thought, kind of keeping with the vibe of the Slanesh with the pink and kind of green color, I thought this would be a perfect fun color scheme palette. And honestly, it really pops off the models. They contrast and complement each other really well. Painting up any metallic part I see with that kind of greenish color. Here I finally noticed that's not hair. It's still a part of the cloak. So I had to kind of go back and blend the colors. Good thing it really wasn't too difficult to kind of go back up with those colors. Here, the eyes. So I actually started out with a base coat of a gray, a really light gray, and I'm just kind of tapping my brush against it, letting the natural vibrations of my finger kind of just fill in and brush where it brushes and just kind of pool in on its own, and it actually worked out perfectly. And this character I wanted to have fully whited out eyes. I figured she looks like she's kind of possessed, so I didn't even have to worry about pupils, which we love, don't we, folks? I also felt like these little ribbons needed a little more zhuzh, a little more oomph, so I went through with a little bit of black paint, and I'm still working on perfecting this. Just kind of did some chicken scratch lines. I think there's actually a name for this in miniature painting, but I don't know what it is. I definitely need to practice on it though. It's maybe get a thinner brush or just take more time. I'm definitely rushing through this a little bit. After that, our Miracultist is basically done. She paints up really quick. She's just the cloak and some metal bits, and the flesh tone is really majority of my work, so I just kind of cover with Nuln Oil. You can see anywhere. I always kind of avoid with Nuln Oil the face, but I wanted to kind of fill in those gaps around the hood, so I kind of lightly got some Nuln Oil in there. I also got Blood for the Blood God, a technical paint from Citadel that's supposed to dry kind of glossy and look like kind of curdled blood, gross. And I thought this would be perfect for her, as again, she got the possessed eyes. Why not make her cry blood? And also the very gnarly, I know Warhammer is grimdark and all that. This is a pretty gnarly character for, I would say, even Warhammer, with the nailed in paper in her hands. It's very brutal. I mean, I'm all in on it. I think it's cool, but it is a pretty brutal character, all things considered. This Blood for the Blood God, honestly, awesome. I could have just used regular red paint for this. You'll see at the end, though, if you pool it really well, it actually gets really shiny and does look like blood, which is really, really cool. Moving on to our next little stinker here. I want to copy the same color palette. He has a little cape cloak too, so I'm not going to show as in detail what I did here, but if you're still kind of confused how to paint cloaks, this guy's got even more kind of folds and wrinkles, and you'll see once I get this initial base coat down. 2 coats, mind you, 2 coats, always with this AK. This is nice paint, but 2 coats. Just picking out where all the folds and creases are, and it's really easy to kind of, I think, practice highlighting and learning kind of building up. It's helped me a lot. I'm still a pretty beginner at painting, but painting cloaks and capes and stuff and just seeing these folds, it just makes, for whatever reason, makes a lot of sense to me. Especially on his neck area, you can see he's got that some really cool folds that you can really highlight up and kind of understand. On a cape, those things are so exaggerated on, especially Warhammer minis. It's really fun to paint up and pick out all those little details. See, quickly it just comes to life. Very, very cool. Next up are his boots and gloves. His boots do have a little metal kind of thing in the middle, and his other boots are pretty covered up by his cape. That's one thing, if you're going to paint these guys, I don't know how to sub-assemble or what, but definitely a lot of bits are being covered, which makes it a lot harder to paint. So if I could go back, I would probably work more in sub-assembly, which I usually try to not do because I just get so dang excited to build these guys. You can see here I'm just slowly layering up some white, and then I realized, well, let's just make his pants also this brown color. Why not? I don't want to overload with colors. That's something I'm working on, is just stripping down a color palette and not having a ton of colors on him. And I missed his gloves on the initial paint through. I did his boots and the book, and I realized, well, no, I could do his gloves too. Those don't need to be a different color, and especially with a bright, vibrant color like that pink. And if I'm going to incorporate that metallic blue again, and maybe a similar color, a little spoiler alert. Just limiting, kind of using neutrals, darks and light neutrals will really help the important parts you want to stand out saying, and kind of the less important stuff kind of fade in the background or help define the silhouette. So just doing 1 or 2. I usually do 3. Anytime I highlight up to something, I do 3 layers of highlight if I'm feeling really lazy. So you can see here on his gloves, I started with the base brown, slightly lighter, and then slightly lighter again, especially like on his fingers and whatnot. So usually if you're going to do it, 3 would be the minimum I would do, but you should really push yourself, and the more you push, it's just going to look better every time you do it. It just kind of depends on how much time you have. And by this point, I was definitely starting to feel a little bit burnt out. Once again, I just go back through, and anything that I want to have contrast paints, I'm going to repaint with white, or make sure I have no bleed through of the pink unless I want that look. Contrast paints, if you don't know, are transparent paints, so any color that's underneath is going to be read through. So if it's darker on one point and lighter on another point, it's going to look darker when you apply that contrast paints where the darker part is, and lighter where the light is. That's why I give everything a zenithal, which is just base priming it black and then spraying it from the top of this, or wherever you want your light source to be, just spraying that part so the white parts will be lighter, and then his details will be black. And if I ever use contrast paints, it's kind of a nice little cheat code for you. So if you're using contrast paints and really want to bring it to the next level, try a zenithal on your next paint job. Going through here, I decided again to any metallic part. I wanted to make that kind of green, I don't know what you'd call this color. It's like a minty metallic green. It's awesome. Next up, we're going back in with the skeleton horde, and you can see I'm pretty liberal with it. The more liberal I get with it, I think the better it looks, especially on something like I want to look like wood. Or like a deep leather. I'll put a pretty thick coat on, or even do 2 coats of contrast, which I usually try to avoid to do just because it starts to get coffee staining, so it looks like someone spilled coffee on it. But sometimes you just need to do it. Another benefit of contrast paints is a little rope there. That would be a lot of work, which I could do it with just a normal acrylic paint, but the contrast paint just looks great just straight out of the pot. Next up, I paint his little, I don't know why, I can't remember what kind of blaster weapon that's called. Lasgun, something. Whoops, don't crucify me. Sorry, I don't know the lore off the top of my head. The one with the plasma coil in it that glows, you'll see. Next up, I pull out some classic style silvers. I kind of was feeling a little overdone with that metallic kind of green. It is cool, but nothing beats just a classic metallic silver or gold or bronze. And from here, I'm just kind of freestyling it. I'm just picking out details I want to bring out, kind of help differentiate. I could be as lazy as I want or not. If I really wanted to spend more time on this guy, I would probably, like competition level painting, really just go into detail and pick out all these little fun little details. But I'm just kind of getting the gist of it here. One thing I will eventually try, I have a lot of metallic paints. I love metallic paints, but I do want to try some non-metallic metals. It's just really intimidating. So maybe in the future, that'll be a video. One thing I'm trying to do here with glow effects is actually, if you put down a base of white, so you can see on the little plasma coil, kind of, a great job filming here. I painted the plasma white, and you'll see in a little bit what that'll do. Another thing, I just kind of globbed on some grayish silver paint and just rubbed it off with my finger to kind of give it a weather look. You can see here when I'm actually doing like a glaze of that orange. And you can see I kind of had a little overspill, which is nothing to really worry about once you're working with something like a glaze or a contrast paint. If you just go in with a dry brush, you can see you can just whisk it away with a clean brush and it'll pick that up, no problem. Here might be my new favorite paint ever. This mint green from AK is insane. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous. It goes so well with the ruby red if you're kind of going for, like I said, that Slanesh chaos look. It's such a cool combo. They sing together, they contrast against each other well. It's just incredible. Once again here, I'm kind of going in with the skin tone, my skin tone technique, so I'm not going to really show everything, but it's the same general idea. Dark brown, slowly building up flesh tones until you get to nearly a pure white look. You can see I'm kind of getting to that pale look. And then it also has these cool little goggles that I just painted with some classic style silver. I also made his lenses that mint green from AK, which I think looks really cool. And then just gave him a little corner dot. If you want something to look reflective like it's a lens, just give it a little corner dot with some white, and it immediately should look kind of like a lens. Same thing here. I just put some chicken scratch on the book so it looked like there's words in it. And now, my favorite part probably of this guy, the torch. How I do torches is I just paint it in with some white or yellow, and then stipple on some orange yellow-ish, like a light orange all over, making sure at the end is more orange than the base. I try to keep the base pretty yellow. And then I come in with some red that I put on even a little less, again, highlighting the end, and then a black I stipple on at the very end to kind of give that oily, flamey look. And honestly, I mean, it's pretty darn incredible. This guy's basically done. I'm just applying the Nuln Oil wash to kind of get those metallics and make him look a little more grim, dark, gritty and whatnot. And he's basically done. And we're ready to base up these guys. Same technique as I've done. I will eventually try and do some new basing stuff, but for right now, I love these Geek Gaming Scenics. Get some Elmer's classic style glue, slather it on the base, dip your little stinker in there. Hello. And shake it off, and you have a pretty decent base that's ready to go. I do want to try some more exciting basing stuff, but for these guys, for this video, we'll leave it at some more beginner-friendly basing. And there you go. 2 little goofballs for the new Grimrolls Cult. I gotta say, these models are incredibly fun to paint up. They have just enough details where I think some of the other models, especially when you get on these little stinkers, the little guys that aren't like Space Marines or whatever, they can get a little detail happy and it's tough to get them. There was some tough to reach ones, which if I just sub-assembled like I normally do for like the head, I would have had an easier job. But overall, what a great little pack. If you can find it somewhere, I think it's sold out online, I would check it out, buy it, or just wait a couple months for the individual if you're not interested in the Goremongers. They should probably be about $60. So with all that being said, it's time for a cultic reveal. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I will say I was going to record in this video the Battle Sister statue thing, but I think I'm going to dedicate a whole video for this. This video is already getting too long. So if you want to see that, make sure to like, subscribe, all that bull honky. Or if you want to join the Grimheads new cult that I'm forming, go for it. And I will catch you next time on Grim Roll.